Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I'm Bueller. So today is part one of the Declan Shalvey interview we did a while back. This is about Thundercats. He's the writer of the new hit series from Dynamite, Thundercats. We talk about the book and also some of his old book like Time Before Time. And it's a pretty good interview. This is part one. I'll have part two out in a couple weeks. But let's get straight to the interview and hopefully you guys enjoy it. All right, I'll see you at the end of the video. Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I am Bueller. We're doing another creator interview today. I have none other than Declan Shalvey today. Declan, how are you doing today? You're all the way over across the pond, as they like to say. It's at nighttime where you're at. It's only 4 o'clock here my time. I'm in the middle of the desert with no one around. And where are you at right now?
I'm in my hometown of Ennis in County Clare, and I just had to walk across town in the freezing cold. So the idea of you just hanging out in a lovely temperate Arizona, I hate you.
Well, I was sitting outside sunbathing today for about an hour and a half, and then you messaged me and said you're running late, so I sat out in the sun for a little bit longer. So I really appreciate that. So
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. I was just brisking against the cold Irish air.
Yeah, I was in the Pacific Northwest just a couple weeks ago, and it's very cold out there. They actually have a winter storm hitting right now, with a bunch of snow. So I avoided it in the nick of the time. But we're here to talk about one of your new books that you're doing for Dynamite. We're here to talk about Thundercats. And man, this is a childhood cartoon of mine that I watched over and over and over, and I really enjoyed it. So you probably did the same thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in Ireland, like when certain American shows kind of like made it over here, it was huge, and I do remember, like, I've joked before. I mean, well, it's serious. I remember I see the Batman anime, the Batman the '60s Adam West show, and when I was a kid, I thought that was like contemporary. I thought it was like made at that time. So stuff came over. You didn't really know when shows were made, but when Thundercats came on, I remember just my brain going like, just that, that classic anime opening. It's just incredible. Even now, it looks amazing. So yeah, it was huge. It was bonkers. It's one of the real, that, and I would say Transformers, Turtles, He-Man were the big four, I would say, over here anyway.
What about, did you get G.I. Joe at all?
Well, yeah, I think I was a little too young, maybe. My friends were a little bit older. I loved G.I. Joe, but I think, it's different. Like, we're all the same generation, but when you're a kid, if you're like 1 year off, you can completely miss something. You can miss those real, a generation when you're, big difference between when you're 5 and somebody else is 6. They're too old for you. So yeah, I just missed out on G.I. Joe myself.
So you're writing at Thundercats. You also are an artist. We'll get to some of your artwork a little bit later. But let me ask you, did you campaign to get on Thundercats? How did this project present itself to you? Did they reach out to you and say, man, you're the guy for the job?
Well, I don't know if they asked anybody else first and they said no. I'm going to assume they did. But no, it was Nate Cosby sent me an email. I was at a convention here in Ireland, and I was very drunk when I got the email, and so the next morning I didn't realize I'd already said yes, because it was just not, that was just an email that was really out of the blue. I was not expecting it. I've known Nate for a good few years. When I started out at Marvel as an artist, he was an editor there, and just done covers and stuff from over the years. But yeah, so it was just, he asked, and I just said yes straight away, just because I just thought it was such a cool idea. I'll be honest, out of the loop as regards what had been done. I didn't know there was I wasn't aware there had been a cartoon in the 2011, and I hadn't seen the Wildstorm comics. Just to me, it was the original cartoon. So that's all I was really going with, but just on that alone, I was like, yeah, this is a really cool idea to just kind of go back to those characters and do something new with them,
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I'm pretty curious, because does this have lore? Does this go back to the original the original TV show that we watched as kids, or does it include some of the other comics or the new series that you just mentioned as well?
I would say the best way to look at it is it's spinning out of the, like, it's not a comic of the cartoon. It's a new lore, but borrowing heavily from the original cartoon. I personally just didn't look at anything else. I didn't want to. With something that big, you run the risk of trying to just like, and here's the thing that you know, and here's the thing that you know, and I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to kind of, I wanted a book for like classic readers and like a new audience as well. So it's basically, I would say it's heavily spinning out of the original series, but doing our own thing. Like there'll, there'll be characters you haven't seen before or different kind of backstories. Basically, just trying to streamline it all into like a really good, like, you know, year-long running storyline. Go big, go epic. And, there'll be some kind of nods to things that, old school fans will recognize.
So let me ask you this, since this is a licensed property that Dynamite now has, how much freedom do you have as far as inventing new characters? Or do they become part of the lore? I mean, where do you have to stay in the bounds for that because of it being a licensed product?
It's a good question, and because I just did a year on Alien for Marvel, and 20th, there were some specific things that they would be as regards. It was my first time dealing with like a licensed property as a writer, so there was some restrictions there. It was all workable, but they were definitely, paying attention. I'm really surprised just how open the Warner's license has been. I think there was one note about a certain character. I don't want to say who. I don't want to give it away, but there was one kind of take we had with it, and there was just like basically very light pushback. Everything else, they've been really hands off. Just, I mean, there was a while there where I wasn't sure because we hadn't gotten approvals for a while, so I'm like, what if they hate it all? But no, I think from the very beginning, I kind of made it very clear what my approach was going to be, and they seemed very into it. And since then, it's been very smooth. Yeah, they seem really hands off, which is great. So it means that we can, my worry, like I said, I didn't want to do a comic of the cartoon. We've all, everyone who's a mega fan has read all the stories. They don't need to be retreaded. So it gives us the space to kind of, like I said, streamline and show new things. And like I can't promise there is a new character. And I thought that would be a good test to see how open they would be, and there wasn't even a problem with that. So it's very open, which is good. It's great, but it's also a little bit worrying because I can never go like, oh man, the licensor wouldn't let me do X, Y, and Z. I don't have that. I don't have that excuse, So if you don't like the book, it's completely my fault.
So you have two different scripts. So you have the ones that go without a license, the ones with a license, pretty much. It's kind of the back.
Well, even like I think you can see it from the designs, even because if you look at Drew Moss's redesigns for the book, it's like 70% what you know from the cartoon, with some little bit streamlining going on. So I feel like Drew's designs are a good kind of visual signifier for what the book will be.
Yeah. So some of the characters in here, Lioness is one of my personal favorites for a whole bunch of different reasons. But the characters are pretty interesting. I mean, do you have a certain favorite that you like writing for?
Well, I mean, I like writing Lino because I'm not used to writing anything like that. The way he's like, you foul demon, that kind of, thespian-esque, dialogue from the cartoon. Like I'm doing, a bit of that, and I'm not used to doing that, which is kind of fun. But I would say I'm surprised how much I like writing, well, all of them really. I think Panthro I was looking forward to, but Slight is a character. As I started writing, I'm like, oh, I can get into this. Like they're all as long as I know they all have a voice and I know their role in the story. It's nice dipping into all that. Like I've never really written a team book like this before, so there's a delicate balance of making sure everyone gets their, they get their scene, so there's something fun about all of them. Even the Wily Cat and Wily Kit, who it's not that I wasn't interested in writing them, I just didn't really think about it much. But then as I was working on them, I'm like, oh, there's a cool dynamic here that's fun to do. So yeah, sorry, there's a boring answer. They're all my favorites. But I do have a like a childhood thing for Lino. I just can't help myself.
Very cool. Well, we're going to get back to Thundercats here in a minute. We're going to kind of take a step away and look at some of your other work. I do want to let people know that I believe Thundercats is due February 7th of this year. I think that's the release date. And there's going to be a multitude of different covers. So be sure to be adding that to your pull list. Ask your local comic shop about that. But let me ask you about some of your other work, because I'm a fan of Time Before Time. And
cool. Thanks, man.
I really enjoyed, I'll be honest, I read about the first 5 issues, and with my travels, things kind of get, I lose track sometimes. But I really enjoyed the first couple of issues. I think I mentioned it on my channel a few times. And I'll be honest, I wasn't really paying attention at who was writing it. And then I saw that I was going to do their interview, and I looked at that, I go, that's a really good title. I really enjoy that. And I believe that came to an end in November, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think November. The last issue. I think you're right. I think it was November. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. We're done. Time Before Time. I didn't read the last few issues, so I don't know what happened. But there's no volume 2, or is that series done?
That's done. I mean, we got 29 issues, so I was pretty pleased to get 29 issues on a creator owned is. I mean, not a lot of books get to do that now. So and I think volume 5 is out. The collection of that is out. Actually, it's out in February as well.
Yeah, middle of next month.
Yeah. I think the end of the month. But no, yeah, I mean, just to be completely upfront, like we just couldn't keep it going anymore. Like the finances weren't there. And it's a tough thing with creator owned books is eventually they just kind of trail off. And I was just glad that we got to tell the story. Like we knew what we wanted to do from the beginning. We didn't even know if we get past issue 5. Yeah. And then once we kind of saw where the sales were, we're like, okay, well, this is where we want to get to. This is where we might only get this far. We'll see. And we actually did get to like the actual ending of the story that we wanted. If the book had sold way more, I think we weren't short of ideas, but we were able to wrap it up on our own terms, which I was really glad about. And I'll take like 29 is, I mean, there's just not that many books who even get there. So I'm really, really happy with it.
I do a weekly preview video. I've been doing this weekly preview video for the last 6 years. It's actually like the #1 most watched preview video on YouTube for all the new books. And that
okay, you don't need to brag. It's fine.
Hey, I'll put the feather in my cap, man. I earned it. But I kept seeing that book all the time coming back up, and it was, maybe you take a month off or whatnot, and then there it was again, Time Before Time. And I was like, man, it's so neat to see that book still coming out, because like you said, a lot of independent creator-owned books don't get that 29, 30 issue run, somewhere in that mark, and this one did. When you started that book, were your expectations to get that far, or was it, okay, we'll probably get about 12 and good?
No, I mean, we had, so myself and Rory McConville kind of came up with it together. We co-wrote it together, and Joe Palmer was the co-creating artist. And we didn't know we'd get past issue 5, so we knew the idea had definitely had legs. Do you know what I mean? It was more than just a 5-issue miniseries. But Rory was kind of unknown. Joe was unknown. I was the biggest name on that, for whatever that's worth. And I wasn't drawing it. I was doing covers, but I wasn't drawing the book. So, you basically had to plan to just have to wrap it up at the 5th issue if it came to it. But when we got the sales for issue 1 and then 2, we were like, okay, I think we can keep it going. And so then we wrote the next arc, and I think after we'd written the 2nd arc, we had to kind of figure out if we were going to, go all in and try wrap it up no matter what, whether the sales, tanked completely. But thankfully we got to a stage where it was stable enough where we were able to just keep it going. I would say we kind of lost money by the end on the last issues, but we knew the trades would help with that. There's a whole machine to the creator owned where you're spending money and then hopefully trying to, make back your expenses later on. So just sorry to answer it. That's a long way to answer your question. Basically, we had a longer plan in our back pocket, hoping we'd get to do that, but we're prepared that if issue 2 just sales had just gone, then, and we had to wrap it in 5, then we would have wrapped it in 5. But it would have been the ending of the arc. Basically, we would have just had to stop. And I'm glad we didn't, because myself and Rory knew there was so much more roads to go down. And if you followed the series, you can see we went down a lot of weird roads, but we knew that's one thing we were both going like, I just really hope we can keep going because there's so much we could do with this. But you know, you can't get there if the book doesn't sell, you know. So thankfully, yeah, we got to go to a second arc, a third, and then like in the end it's 5 arcs. So I'm delighted with that.
That's great. Well, I'm glad that book found an audience because, like I said, I really did enjoy the time I did spend with it, and it's something I need to revisit now that the series is over. Now, you were the writer.
Everybody can buy volume 1 to 5, so I encourage you to do it, please.
There you go.
So you're the doing? Two thumbs up.
That works, man. Whatever. 2 thumbs up.
Sure.
Guys, hopefully you like that. Like I said, that's part 1. I'll have part 2 coming out in a couple weeks. And also, do me a favor, go check out Thundercats if you haven't already. I know it's been a big hit. And also, Time Before Time, you also talked about the trades for that. So get that as well. All right, that's all I got for you. See you next time. Bye.